So your 1-year-old toddler has a fever, and you're trying to figure out what can you do to reduce his or her fever. So my little Donovan did contract COVID, and we learned a lot of things to help him reduce his fever. So the first tip I can give you to reduce the fever in your toddler is to use ibuprofen and use Tylenol to actually alternate the two medications. This helps to break the fever faster, and you're able to dose the medication more often without putting your child at risk for kidney or liver damage. Taking too much Tylenol can affect the liver, and taking too much ibuprofen can affect the kidneys. So when you alternate, that reduces the amount of Tylenol and the amount of ibuprofen that you give your child. Tip number 2 is to dose your baby according to his or her weight. Now, you could use a chart to help dose the baby, the 1-year-old toddler. However, there's a way to calculate the dosing more accurately using an equation, and I can show you that in a different video. But for now, there's a chart that I have. There's a link to the chart on the bottom of the YouTube video that you can refer to. But many times I find that the dosing of that chart is not adequate enough. Usually, you have to dose more frequent, like every 4 hours, with that dosing chart, as compared to if you do back calculations every 6 hours. But number 3 is actually use a dosing sheet. And what I mean by dosing sheet is to have a relative time as to when to check the temperature and then dose. So, for example, if you're dosing every 4 hours, then you want to check the toddler's temperature, and then if it's hot enough, then you would give the Tylenol. But if not, you maybe want to wait a little bit longer to see if the temperature rises. But anyways, it's a schedule every 4 hours. For example, 12 o'clock is the time you gave the child the Tylenol, and then maybe 4 o'clock you want to check the temperature, and if necessary, give the child ibuprofen. And then at 8 o'clock, check again. So if there's a sheet, it'd be much easier, so you don't forget if you gave the child, get confused if you gave the child Tylenol or ibuprofen. You know exactly what you gave the child. Tip number 4 is hydration. Water is the miracle liquid of life, and it is also healing to our body. So hydrating the child throughout the day, but also especially before or after you give the medication, it helps to the aftertaste of medication and just hydrating, because many times babies can't take formula or milk because they can't digest it as well, and they'll end up either probably throwing up, which happened to that's what happened to Donovan. So he didn't drink milk throughout the whole day, not as often as he did when we tried to feed him milk at night, and he ended up throwing up the milk because he wasn't able to digest it. So at least hydrating the baby, and don't be alarmed that you're not giving because the child is sick. The baby's trying to heal, the body's trying to heal, so they're not as feeding as much. 5, giving some liquid vitamin to the baby. Either Pedialyte just has some electrolytes, and so that'll help too. But maybe liquid vitamin, mostly polyvitamin in milk. Preferably at least once in a day. That will overall help the immune system and overall fight infection, and ultimately the immune system will fight the infection, and ultimately will reduce the fever. So that's an extra tip number 5.